What's up, guys? Welcome to another week of Online Youth Group. Pastor Ryan here, and it is Super Bowl week. Whoop whoop! So I've got the jersey representing my Niners because they're in the Super Bowl last year. They were in the Super Bowl last year, not this year. I'm still pretty sad about it, but it'll be fun. And it's exciting to have the Super Bowl, even if we can't necessarily throw big Super Bowl parties. But it's going to be fun. But welcome to another week of us doing this online. I'm really hoping that in about 2 or 3 weeks we can be meeting in person again. I'm going to be reaching out to you guys as students, or I'll have a leader reach out to you, or I'll be contacting your parents via our parent email to check in and to see how we're feeling about meeting in person, because I miss meeting in person and I'd love to be able to do that again. But while we're not meeting in person, we still are going to have lots of fun things coming up in our youth group. For example, this Friday, in 2 days, we are having an, drumroll please, Among Us tournament. Among Us tournament that's going to be really fun. And what is going to happen, basically, is we are going to be playing Among Us for 2 hours while in a Zoom call. And you can join at any point in those 2 hours. It's from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Friday afternoon. But if you want to get the most points by playing the games and you want to win, then you'll want to be there for the full 2 hours. And there are prizes for students. For the first place student, you will get a $25 gift card to Amazon. $25. And second and third place will both get a $10 gift card to Amazon. So come, even if you don't play Among Us, come, because if you show up and there are 2 other students there, then guess what? All 3 of you are going to get at least a $10 gift card to Amazon. So it's going to be lots of fun, and I encourage you to come. And here's how the game's going to work. The tournament is going to work. We will play as many games of Among Us as we can in those 2 hours. And here's how the games and the scoring will break down.
Every game, we will have either 1 or 2 imposters.
We will then proceed to do tasks, run around, and play a regular game of Among Us.
I passed Red going to weapons, and then I found the body. I'm pretty sure Red killed him.
Well, I think you self-reported.
I believe you, Blue. I'm gonna vote Red.
If you correctly vote for an imposter, you gain 2 points. If you incorrectly vote for a crewmate, you lose 1 point.
Oh, darn.
Few moments later, 1 eternity later, 3 days later, 12 seconds later, 3:28 a.m.
I think it's red. I'm also pretty sure it's red.
What?
If you are a crewmate and your team wins, you get 2 points. Even if you're dead. But if the imposter wins, you get 5 points.
Alright, so that's how the game's going to break down. It's going to be lots of fun. Even if you've never played Among Us, it's super easy to download the app and to just hop in and play. And then you'll have the ability to win a prize. And even if you've never played before, you never know. It'll be very random, and who knows how many students will show up. So if you show up, I guarantee you'll have a great chance of getting a prize. So come this Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. to do that. Now, what we're going to do now is we just finished January, and throughout the month of January, we were doing different ways and things to look back on the year 2020 and to look forward to the year 2021 and think about our goals and how we want to change and grow after what we learned from 2020. But we're transitioning, we're done with that series, and we're moving into a new series, and that is called the Emotionally Healthy Relationships series. And what this is a series that our entire church, youth ministry, young adult, regular adult, small groups, we are all going to be going through this series together. And Ryan Clement is really the one spearheading this. And we really want the whole church to do it together. And I'm going to be tweaking it a bit and changing it a bit to fit for the youth group, for you guys as high school and junior hires. This will be a little different than for adults, but everyone will basically be doing the same lessons and the same activities together. And the purpose of this series is to engage in relationship growth and self-improvement, like emotionally healthy relationships, so that we can grow as people emotionally and improve ourselves. And I think this is, some might ask, like, oh, what does being in emotionally healthy relationships have to do with being a Christian? And I would argue that you can't be spiritually healthy if you are not emotionally healthy, and if you are not in it, and also you can't be spiritually healthy if you're bad at relationships. Because in the Bible, we are called to love God and love neighbor. And I think if we're not loving our neighbor the way God calls us to, then we're not doing a good job at loving God, because those two things go together. So in this Emotionally Healthy Relationship series, we are going to explore a lot of content such as our family history. We're going to, quote unquote, explore the iceberg. And what that means is the part of ourselves emotionally that's beneath the surface, because an iceberg has 10% of the iceberg is above the surface and the water's here, but a vast majority of the iceberg is underneath the surface. So exploring the iceberg involves exploring what's underneath the surface, or what's going on inside of us emotionally that is not as easy to see. And we're also going to learn specific skills to engage in relationship, such as attentive listening incarnationally. We're going to learn how to deal with conflict, how to conflict, how to clarify expectations, how to have integrity in our relationships, and much, much more. There's a lot of different skills that we learn throughout this series. And I think for you guys as high school and junior high students, this will help you grow in emotional intelligence and help you to grow as a person and to figure out how to relate to people in healthy ways. And it'll help you navigate your own relationships with the people around you, such as your siblings, your parents, your friends at school, maybe even a boyfriend or a girlfriend that you have. And if you learn a lot from this series, it'll give you skills that'll help you deal with your significant other, your maybe future husband or wife, and that those skills will stay with you for the rest of your life. And I know that I've used some of these skills in my relationship with Sarah, my wife. So all of these skills will help you navigate all of your relationships that you have in your life. And the question that I want to ask you guys as students now, as we introduce this series, because technically we're not even starting the series this week, I'm just introducing it. The whole church is starting the series next week. So next week we'll be going through the material of chapter 1 of the Emotionally Healthy Relationships workbook. And don't worry about the workbook. I'll be getting it. I'll be conveying it to you guys. I have all the stuff that you need. And just by coming to youth group and watching these videos, or coming to youth group in person, you'll be ready to discuss it. But so we're starting that next week. Today, I just wanted to talk about it a little and introduce it to you guys. And the question that I wanted to ask you, I wanted to get you processing before we start the actual curriculum and learning of the series. I want to ask you this question. Are your relationships emotionally healthy? Are your relationships emotionally healthy? And if you're not sure, or think maybe or somewhat, I think there are many different ways of how you can tell if your relationships are emotionally healthy. Here are some ways that maybe might be a sign that your relationships are not as healthy as you think. One example of why your relationship might not be as healthy as you think is if there's any anger beneath the surface or resentment, or you kind of are struggling with holding a grudge with someone, but you don't bring it up just so that the relationship stays smooth. And maybe you have that anger kind of constantly inside of you and almost like ready to boil up at a moment's notice. Maybe that happens with your parents or your siblings because you get frustrated with them and you kind of hold grudges against them. Those are signs of that your relationships are not emotionally healthy. Another sign of unhealthy relationships is if there's bad communication. If you're in a relationship with someone and you're not good at communicating how you're feeling with one another, both you to them and them to you, then that's a sign that your relationships are not emotionally healthy. Another way to tell if we're in relationships that are not emotionally healthy, if it's hard to articulate how you're feeling. If you are confused emotionally, you're not even sure what's going on inside of you or how you actually feel or think about something, then that's a sign maybe that that relationship isn't healthy, and maybe you also have more processing and growth you need to do in here in order to be emotionally healthy in your relationship. Another sign of emotionally unhealthy relationships is if you're quick to conflict. If your anger just bubbles up and you go at the other person, maybe this is a sibling or a friend, and you argue and you fight, or even your parents, you argue and you fight and you go at each other's throats or something like that, that's a sign that your relationship is emotionally unhealthy. And in this area, I was definitely guilty of this when I was in high school and junior high with my mom and my brother especially. And so maybe that's you as well, in terms of how you're thinking about if your relationships are emotionally healthy. A couple more signs. If there is hurt in a relationship, if you are experiencing bitterness towards someone, and you have pain when you think about your relationship with someone, that's a sign of an emotionally unhealthy relationships. And lastly, being over-dependent on someone is a sign of an emotionally healthy relationship. For me, an example of that was the girl I dated in high school. She kind of became my world. She was the only thing that mattered to me. And basically, I put my sense of identity for myself in her. And I gave that to her. She was basically my identity and my world and the only thing I cared about. And I was over-dependent on her. And I think for you listening, that could be your relationship with a boyfriend, a girlfriend, maybe just some of your best friends and another sign of this might be if you feel like you're changing how you're acting or behaving to fit in or to be cool or to make your friends laugh. That might be a sign that you are over-dependent on the relationship with those friends and that you are going too far and that the relationship is not emotionally healthy. So, all that just to say, this is the series we have coming up. It's supposed to be fun and cause a lot of self-reflection. And it'll be fun to do it together as a church. So I just wanted to introduce it today and to get a discussion sparked. I really want you guys, the really reason I'm bringing this up this week is I want you to start processing this in your small groups before we get to the actual lesson next week, which will involve tools and skills to help us create emotionally healthy relationships. So now I want you guys to discuss in your small group a few questions. And I'll just say the first question just to give you a starting point so you can start thinking about it now. The first question we're going to ask is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how emotionally healthy do you think your relationships are? So you can start thinking about that now. We'll process these together in our groups, and that'll give us a good framework and a good setup to lead us into next week when we actually start the curriculum and start learning tools and skills to grow in emotional intelligence and emotionally healthy relationships. So it should be a good time. Reminder, this is happening in 2 days on Zoom, so follow us on social media on Instagram so you get the updates and the Zoom info for this. It's going to be really fun. Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Be there or be square. So I hope to see you guys in 2 days. It's going to be really fun. Come for the big prizes, come for fun. And you guys all have a safe week. And I'll see you guys later. Woo! Uh-oh.